I did a video off the cuff on a debating tactic that I found works very well. But like most shit that I do off the cuff, it wasn't very tight, the video that I did. It wasn't concise, it was a bit waffly, and I knew that I could do better if I had notes in front of me, and I cut a lot of the crap out. The method taps into the same knee-jerk reflexive instinct that causes people to virtue signal when they think there's an audience, or when they know that there's an audience and they need to pander to that audience in order to keep them. People cannot help engaging with this method, and they have to hit back. Ignoring it, if they're on the left, it plays into their own bullshit of silence is violence, or if you disagree with us in any capacity, kind of like down kind of the moral stack, like you're a bad, evil person. But this method, because it plays on grifters and people who are full of shit, it works omnidirectionally. Like, it's apolitical. Anyone who has an audience, because they're full of shit and they lie and there are places where they won't go, they're in danger if you use this method in a decisive way. The trick is that when you're debating, the debaters and the people on either side of the argument, they want to be right, but they also want to be righteous in their rightness. They want to prove that someone is wrong, technically, factually, so that they can prove that they were right and are therefore good, smart, kind, intelligent, all those things. Those, in the moment, they feel like one thing, but they are two separate things. And there is a way to get one of those drivers for a person to attack or undermine the other. The short description of this method is that instead of presenting yourself when you're arguing as good, and your own argument as good or rational, and counter-presenting your opponent's argument as bad or irrational, ergo they are bad or stupid, you present yourself as an ally to your opponent. But you support your opponent's argument for reasons that are morally antithetical to what they support or what their audience wants. The logical follow-up question with this is, well, how do you defend yourself if you're presenting yourself as bad or immoral? Like, that must be impossible. But it's not, because the way that you do it is the exact same way that fucked up people on the left who are full of shit get away with all the shit that they do. Like, the best way to maintain a strong defensive position while occupying some moral low ground, while playing devil's advocate just to fuck with people, it's to present yourself as something that is down the progressive stack, that gives you automatically the moral leverage to attack from beneath something that is foundational to others above you in the progressive stack. It works because people who lie and are full of shit all the time, they end up tying their own ego in knots, and eventually, they get caught in a web of their own bullshit. Like, even they can't keep track of all the contradictions they've been auto-subscribed to. But if you give people enough rope to hang themselves, like they usually do, people care about looking like they care, because that's how a lot of people get attention. But nothing frightens those people more than the social consequences of being honest or being caught out for being a fraud. And it's very rewarding to just give people all the ingredients they need to poison their own wells and watch them go, like some passive Machiavellian tactic. The example I used in the original video was, let's say you don't support trans women in sport. Well, let's say that you support trans women in sport while making it clear that you think it's funny, or that you hate women and that you see them as men and as comrades. Like, why does gender segregation exist in sport at all? Well, it's because if it didn't, like, women wouldn't win anything. Like, we don't say that. But that's why we don't say male league and female league. We'll say the league usually, and then the women's league. The method works if you are arguing against something while supporting something down the progressive stack. Like, it has to be that way. If you think of the progressive stack as a ladder, you support someone on the lower rungs with the intent of getting someone to deconstruct their own arguments to fight you, but you move the window of reason back up the ladder, and hopefully that helps gain some momentum for you or your arguments, like for people to go even higher. Another example that I should have mentioned in the video that I didn't is that when the George Floyd riots took off and everyone was putting up signs in their stores saying, like, every variation really of "we're not white," like, don't burn down our stuff. Like, it was very nice. No one seemed to point out how fucking shitty that was. Like, we're not Jewish, don't burn down our stuff. I don't think that would have gone down so well. But, like, even the MAGA light crowd, like, people in, like, their Crowder sphere, like, they felt the need to launder fairly, like, milquetoast liberal opinions through just finding some black dude that they could put a MAGA hat on to say it. Like, they didn't want to touch any of that. They just said, well, like, look, this black person like was injured. Oh, this black business was wrecked. This black police officer was killed. Like, oh, now these people have gone too far. They went too far before. So on multiple platforms and like bread tuber lefty subreddits at the time when that was happening, I, as a fellow progressive, who sees just like you do how bad white police officers are, and how cruel they are to black people, I suggested, why don't we mandate that all new police officers are black, and we phase out like white police officers, like not just in the spirit of diversity, like, oh, this business is mostly white, well, that's a problem, and this one has no white people at all, that's super diverse. It's that if all the police officers are black, then any problem that happens between a black police officer and a black person, well, that's black on black crime. So it won't matter. Like, it won't drive up racial tension because there's no racial differential for anyone to grift off. And the funny thing about making an argument that way is that people took it seriously immediately, like ignoring the huge crowd of people who are like, well, a black police officer, like he's white on the inside, like he's a traitor, blah blah, and you're like, okay, well, what do you think of non-black people? Like, what do they have to do to be accused of being black on the inside? And then it's like fucking crickets. Mentioning that shit, like that I just said, ironically, that's when the penny drops and you get banned. But the method in this, why don't we just like have all the police officers be black? Like, it's tied into like the old ancient art of baiting. Like, you know, someone posts a sentence and it's calibrated for either maximum rage or maximum engagement, and everyone starts accusing that person of X, Y, or Z, or assuming a whole bunch of things, but like that person has no positions. Like they're just in it for the spirit of the game, and I respect that. So, if you imagine a debate or an argument as a bridge, where the rope and the beams are someone's position in a debate, and the bridge that they are defending leads to an audience that wants their avatar, their debater, they want their team to win, you can get the debater to either attack the bridge that they're standing on to protect their desire to be good, or right, which negates their audience who want them to be good, or you get them to run away for the sake of pandering to an audience, like retreating off that bridge and ceding control to you. Like, you're not there, if you're doing this, you're not there to like cross the bridge. Like, you're like some master beta, like who just wants to swing and shake the bridge and kind of shake all the shitty people off, like some like Mario Party game, you know, like one of the old Nintendo 64 ones where you've got to rotate the control stick and it ends up grinding a hole in everyone's hands. Like, the method works even if people know that you're fucking with them. But as soon as people know that you're fucking with them and you're just trolling, like, that's when like someone starts crying and you get banned. If you can toe the line and trick people into thinking that you're not tricking them and that you're being serious, and do it honestly, then people almost always take the bait. Like, they still have that knee-jerk instinct to engage in order to protect their image to an audience. And any insecurity like that, it's exploitable if they have to be one thing to maintain their crowd. I didn't come up with a name for it. I thought like reverse Immoral Steel-Manning, maybe Mockham's Razor, and I know that like that name, just like this tactic on the face of it, it sounds really fucking stupid, but it works. Like, it just works. Simple as, like, keep it simple, stupid. It works so well for me that I'm confident in using this method for a lot of content, talking about things that no one wants to touch, like IQ differentials. Well, like, why do Jewish people earn more than non-Jewish people? Well, so saith like Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris and all those people and all those articles. It's because their IQs are higher, and you go, but they're white people. Like, are you saying that they're white people and they have higher IQs? And it's like, no, they're white fluid. Like, they're white when it's convenient, and they're intergenerational Holocaust survivors when it's not. Okay, well, is that why Jewish people have more than black people? Like, well, that's the line. Or Asians are also a good example of that, where Asians, like, they have the reverse issue, where they're not a preeminent victim group, so they are white adjacent when they're successful. And if they're unsuccessful, then they're people of color, because people of color is just non-white. I'm happy to go there, like, go in that direction, because, like, I hate all this shit around IQ and racial differentials and anything that gets in the way of people establishing some type of grand unifying narrative that pulls everyone together, like, in the same direction. Like, I want us to be on fucking Mars. I don't want there to be tensions between different groups of people, but how can there not be tensions if certain hypocrisies are accepted Like it's a hypocrisy because like some principle that you pretend to have, like in one context, you don't have, and you go in the complete different direction, but you make bullshit arguments to justify it. Like that's what I want to deal with, and that's something that this method, this engagement method, is very good at, like isolating and cutting through all the rubbish. Like that's what I want to do. Alrighty, my lunch break is over, so I'll leave it there. But thank you to everyone who's been very nice in the comments for the places that I put this. Like even one person, like letting me know that I'm they like what I'm doing. Like that means a lot.